Distributive Laws by Walter Bach. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. All right, so we have a couple of examples here: expansion and grouping. Here is an example with one variable and two ORed variables. And here's the same one with one variables ended with three ORed variables. Okay? And grouping here, you see here we have A and B or C, and over here we have A or B and C. So this is almost like a negative example. They're negative examples of each other. So I just wanted to give you the example with two variables and three variables, and towards the end we're going to take a look at some combined ones as well. All right, so definitions for the distributive law expansion law. Here's a mouthful. A variable ended with ORed sum is equal to the OR of the individual ended products. So here's a mouthful. Here's another one. All right, so for the grouping law factorization, a variable ORed with ended product is equal to the end here of the ORed sums. We're going to take these apart and see what we can do with this. All right. So let's take a look at the expansion first. So here's a variable ended with three ORed variables. And here's the final product of this whole thing. But let's take a look at how we actually did this, how we can do this. All right, so how many characters do we have in the brackets? And just by the way, yes, there are parentheses, but for the better flow and better rhythm of the talk, I'm going to call them brackets. Right? So how many characters do we have in the bracket? In the brackets. Characters in the brackets, there are three. So we're going to have, therefore, we're going to have three brackets. Okay, so here's a bracket, bracket, bracket. Right? What's inside the brackets? Inside the brackets, we have OR. So we're going to change it to AND. So what's inside the brackets, instead of OR, we're going to have AND. We're flipping those operators. AND, OR. So in this case, we are flipping OR into the AND inside the brackets. What's outside of the brackets? Okay, outside of the brackets, we have AND, so we're going to flip that into OR. So what's inside? This ORs, we're going to flip it into ANDs, and this AND, we're going to flip it into OR. All right, so we have three brackets because we have three variables here. So bracket 1, bracket 2, bracket 3. So now we know we're going to have AND. So here's an AND, and these are the variables. We don't know what they're going to be yet. Well, we do, but let's just play along. So what's outside the brackets? Outside the brackets is AND. So we're going to flip it, change it into OR. So we have three brackets and operators within the brackets and ORs outside. We're changing them. Now let's write this out. All right, we are combining A, B, A, C, A, D. So AB, AB, and we already have the AND here, so we already wrote that down. Then AC, AC, right here, and AD. That's all the combinations we can have with this thing here. So here's the result, final answer. A and B, or A and C, or A and D. All right, so we have expanded this expression into this expression right here. Now, if we want to fold it the other way, we have this expression here. We're going to fold it back into this form. So let's bring out, let's find if we have, well, We know we do, but let's pretend we're finding common terms. So in this case, we have A. All the brackets expressions have common A, so we can throw it out of them. Right? So operators, what's inside the brackets? All right, we have and. We're going to draw one common bracket for those three, one common bracket set for these three expressions here. And what's inside the bracket, instead of the and operator, we're going to change it into or. Okay? What's inside the brackets and change it into or. What's outside? We have or outside the brackets. We're going to change it into and. We're just changing them. And then, just like the traditional algebra, we're going to pretend we're dividing. We're going to pretend that this is A times B. Right? Just pretend. Okay? We know this is Boolean Algebra, so we're dealing with A. We are reading this thing as A and B. So, all right. So let's pretend we're dividing that by the common term that we just threw out of the bracket. A and B, or A times B, quote unquote, divided by A, we're going to end up with B. Over here, we're going to end up with C. And over here, we're going to end up with D. So we have just folded that. All right. So what was inside the brackets? It was and. So inside the brackets, we have or. We're changing it. And what was outside the brackets was or. We're changing that into and. That's it. This expression was folded back into this expression here. All right. Let's take a look at this thing here. Can this expression be folded? All right. We have A and B here, or A and C. But over here we have that lonesome A. Well, let's see if we can just flip it into this type of, so it looks like this here. All right. Well, can we do something with the A? Yes, we can. Well, A and 1 is going to give us A, so why don't we just write it like that? A and 1, or A and B, or A and C. So now it looks more familiar to us right now. So bring the common A out of the brackets, and we're going to have one common bracket for all those three right now. Now we can do this. Flip the ands with the ors, and pretend we're dividing everything by A. So we have the A thrown in front of the bracket. And we have this A and 1 divided, quote unquote, by A. We're going to end up with 1. This here divided by A, we're going to end up with B. Over here, we're going to end up with just C. And what was inside the brackets was and, so we're going to change it into ors here, or. And what was outside the brackets there were ors, so we're going to change those ors into ands, and we only have 1 here. All right, so then we end up with this expression here in the brackets. So it's just like having 3 inputs. Well, we have an OR gate with 3 inputs, and one of the inputs is stacked high. Well, we're always going to end up with 1 on the output. So this whole expression turns into 1. So all of a sudden we have A and 1, and we know that if we have a double input or 2 input AND gate, and one of the inputs is stuck on 1, then the output is going to be whatever the other input is. So A and 1, we're going to end up with A. So the final answer for this expression is A. We could pretty much see that just by looking at this thing right now. A or something else, that's going to be A. All right. Well, not always like that, but in this case it would be. Now let's group or unfold this expression here. Distributive log, grouping, and for factorization here. We have A and B, or C and D and E here. Well, let's rewrite that thing so we can see it a little bit better. Drop that little dot here because if we drop that dot, it's still the same expression. A, B is just like A and B. So we're just going to have that. It just looks a little bit better for us. All right, so now A and AB can be seen as, well, that we can treat as quote unquote one thing. Okay, so we have something like this right here. All right, so how many brackets are we going to have with the ANDed variables? We have 1, 2, and 3, and that A, B thing. All right, so yes, okay, so we're going to have one bracket, one bracket, one bracket. So 3 brackets. And we're going to have something in this bracket, something in this bracket, something in this bracket. What we're going to have as operators? Well, let's see. What we have outside of the brackets, we have OR. So we're going to change it into AND. So whatever is outside the brackets is going to turn into AND symbol or operator. So here, all right? And we're going to have something in the brackets. Inside the brackets, we have AND, so we make them OR. We make them OR. Group the common term AB, that common thing, with the other terms, C, D, E. So we have that thing with C, we have that thing with D, and we have that thing with E. Here's that thing with C, here's what that thing with B, and here's that thing with E. All right? And we know that that thing is A and B. So we could end up with something like this. And if that serves our purpose, then this is where we would stop. Just for fun, we could compare those truth tables. So here's a truth table for A and B or C, D, E. Here's a truth table for AB or C and AB. And so there's that expression right here. And long and behold, those outputs, of course, they're going to be the same. You see here? I just put them green and red so we could see it easier. All right? Here's a decimal value, so if we're counting that 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and so on, so we're counting that from 0 to 31, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inputs is going to give us 32 combinations. 0 counts as something as well, so it's 32 altogether combinations of those 5 inputs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So those truth tables match. If you want to analyze them, they do match. So we're still on the ball. All right. Now we could, that one here, we could group this expression kind of further if we want. All right. So if you cover B, let's just put something on top of B. We're just going to cover B. All right. Just like that. We have covered B. We end up with AC, AD, AE. And, of course, we're going to flip the operators. What's inside those brackets? Well, how many brackets first we're going to have? The brackets in the variables in the brackets are 3. This one, and that one. So we're going to have 3 brackets. Bracket 1, bracket 2, bracket 3. What's inside the brackets is AND. So we're going to change it into OR in all the brackets. What's outside the brackets is OR. So we're going to change it into AND here and here. And now we have this one and this one. This one and this one and this one and this one, whatever they are, we're just going to write them out. So here's A and C, A and D, and A and E. And then Now we can do this. Erase that covering here. We're going to cover the A right now. Covering that, and we do the same thing. We do the same thing with the B, but instead of A, we're going to do B. So we're going to have B, C, B, D, B, E, brackets. Inside the brackets, we have ands. We're changing into ors. What's outside the brackets, it's ors. We're changing into ands. So with A, we have this expression. With B, we have this expression. And they're all ands, so this has to be ended with that. So we just have to write all those in one single string. So that expression also, right, that expression, grouping it this way, is going to look like this here. A or C, and A or D, and A or E, and B or C, and B or D, and so it's a long expression, but that can be grouped into this here. And I just did the simplified version of the truth table. In this case, you could add more columns with these here. All right, so you can expand it into more columns. And you can AND those using AND operator. You're going to end up with the same truth table. So yeah, so that works. All those truth tables are equal to each other. Okay, now let's mix things up a little bit. So I just wrote, okay, now let's mix things up to learn how to see common things. So now we are learning how to see. Right? So here we have, again, the same expression, but we're just going to mix them up a little bit. Just put them in the bag and shake them and see, just drop them out on the table again. So I just mixed them up. Plus I mixed them, I reversed some of those B and C. So C, B or C, same thing as C or B. So then you can end up with this right here. And at first, it might look like a bunch of mess, but is there something that we could do with this? To bring it back, we're going to try to, because it's the same expression, we're going to bring it back into this form right here. All right, so let's see. Here's the last slide. All right, so here's that expression. So what can we do here? See if any characters repeat in any of the brackets. And if yes, just put them together so we can see things better. Okay, so we have things that, okay, here's one with A, here's one with A, here's one with A. All right, so those three we can put together. And here's one with B, here's one with B, and here's one with B. So, all right, so the ones with A's we can just put in one line. And here, those ones with B's, we can put in the other line. We can clean them up a little bit. So all the common ones we can write first, just so they look prettier. So let's clean them up. So that one here, yeah, we leave it like that. Now A and E, we leave it like that. A and C, we leave it like this here. A, C, A, D, A, E, that's fine. Now we can put that rearranged a little bit better, so we can put the B's in front of those just so it looks prettier. So that we end up with something like this here: A or C and A and D, or and A or E, and same thing here. So we have those cleaned up a little bit, and just by doing the same, just by going through the same motions over here. What do we have that we can throw out in front of the brackets? And we'll have one common bracket for all those common things. So A repeats here, right? So we're going to have one common bracket. Throw the A in front of the bracket. Now, you see here, what's outside the brackets? It's and. So we're going to change it into or. What's inside the brackets is or. So we're going to change it into and. All right, so, and divide everything by A. since we threw that in front of the brackets. So just throw them out of there, right? A or C, boom, here. That A loses the A, ends up with D, and so on. All right, same thing with the other one. But remember, those two expressions are ended. So we have to take this and end it with that. And I did it right here. Here is this expression right here. And here is this expression right here. And there's an AND operator between those two. So there's those bigger brackets. Notice that there's one common term here, and the common term is CDE. So let's, just so it looks simpler, we can come back to it, expanding it. We can just call that X, or any whatever letter you want to call it. So now we can make things look simpler, and we get A or X and B or X. Now this looks very familiar. Bring the X in front of the bracket, one common bracket, bring the X out of there, flip the ands and ors. So inside the brackets we have ors, so we're going to change that to AND operator, and outside the bracket we have AND, so we're going to change it into OR. So here it is, we have thrown X in front of that. We have that OR because it used to be AND, so we have that OR. And that is going to lose X, so we're going to end up with A. This expression is going to lose X, we're going to end up with B, and we know what the operators should be. So we're going to end up with something like this, because now we can, what did I write? Now we can write what the X is. So we write it back to BCD, because that BCD right here, we just called it X. So now we can write it out. We end up with something like this. BCD and that AB that we have here. Rearrange it a little bit. We're back to the same expression from page 5. Where's page 5? Right here. Okay. Last slide. All right, and that's the perspective on the distributive properties that I just wanted to show you before you have that test, or for fun if you're watching this YouTube video 2 years from now.